You watched something good show up in your life this week, and you started looking for the crack in it. Not because it was flawed, because it wasn't. And you couldn't stand how that felt. So ask yourself, why do you only do this to the things that are actually working? It's not fear, and it's not bad luck. There's a story you've been protecting about who you are, and good things are the only real threat to it. This is about that story, and the one moment you can catch yourself running it. Let me show you 3 versions of it. Watch for the one that's yours. The first one is a person. Someone good walked in, better than you expected. They saw you, actually saw you, and they didn't play games, and they stayed consistent. And somewhere around the second week, you started hunting. You found the one small thing that bothered you, and you stared at it until it was the only thing you could see. You picked a fight over nothing. You went quiet and made them work to find out why. And by the time it ended, you couldn't have explained it if your life depended on it. You just knew you needed out. The second one is work. You got the thing you said would change everything. First month, you were early. Second month, you were late. By the third, you were missing the deadlines that mattered. Not enough to get fired, just enough to get noticed. You stopped raising your hand for the good projects. And there was this quiet voice the whole time saying, they're going to find out anyway. Get ahead of it. The third one is the quietest. You were building something, and it started to work. People noticed. Momentum showed up, and instead of pushing into it, you disappeared. Stopped posting. Stopped answering. Let it die in the silence. And when someone asked, you said you got busy. You didn't get busy. You got scared. Here's the thread. It isn't laziness, and it isn't that something's wrong with you. It's that the wreckage has a shape. Look at what actually got destroyed in those 3. The relationship that was working, the career that was lifting, the recognition that was about to land. You don't tear down the things that don't matter. You tear down the ones that were about to prove something new about you, something you're not ready to believe. And that's the part nobody tells you. This isn't chaos. Chaos is messy. This is clean. This is surgical destruction. It doesn't hit at random. It picks the target every time, with the same precision a surgeon uses, except it's cutting out the wrong thing. Hold on to that word. Surgical. We come back to who's holding the knife. So here's how the machine works. And it is a machine. That matters. Because you can't argue with a machine, you can only see it. Jung saw something most people walk right past. The mind isn't one thing, it's a negotiation. There's the part of you that wants, that makes plans, sets the goal, reaches for the person, takes the job. And underneath that, there's everything else. The part Jung called the unconscious. And the unconscious does not care about your goals. It cares about one thing only, keeping your story about yourself intact. Coherence. Not happiness. Coherence. So when the conscious part of you reaches for something good, it's placing a bet. The bet is, I deserve this. But there's an older calculation running underneath, and it never got the memo. That one says something different. It says, you don't deserve this. You're not someone who gets loved. You're not someone who succeeds. You're a fraud, and this is exactly how you get found out. And here's the thing. Jung understood that changes everything. The mind can't hold 2 opposite truths for long. It isn't built for it. If the top of you wants the thing, and the bottom of you is certain you don't deserve it, something has to give. The tension has to break one way or the other, and the unconscious wins. Every single time. Because it's older than your goals, it's faster than your plans, and it does not ask your permission. So it breaks the tension the only way it knows how. It destroys the evidence. If the relationship would prove you can be loved, end the relationship. If the work would prove you're capable, sabotage the work. If the recognition would prove you matter, vanish before it reaches you. The destruction was never the failure. It's the correction. The machine isn't broken. It's working exactly as designed. It's just running on data that was entered a very long time ago by people who weren't you before you could read what they were writing. So where did the bad data come from? Not from you. This is the part almost everyone gets wrong. People say, I have low self-esteem. I need to fix it. Like they installed it themselves. Like you woke up one morning and decided you weren't worth good things. You didn't decide that. It was written into you before you had any say. Think about what you actually were at the start. A kid with no self-concept yet. You didn't know what you deserved. You had no idea. You learned it. You learned it by reaching out and watching what came back. You were loud. You were needy. You were angry. You were curious. You wanted things. And you watched each part of you land on the faces around you. Your parents, teachers, the other kids. Some of what you put out got love. Some got silence. Some got punished. So you adapted. You had to. You were a child, and their approval wasn't a nice to have. It was survival. The parts that earned love, you kept and grew. They became your personality, the version of you that was allowed. And the parts that got the flinch, the anger that scared your mother, the ambition that made your father go cold, the neediness that wore people out, the confidence somebody decided to call arrogance. You didn't kill those parts. You can't kill them, they're energy, and energy doesn't die. You buried them, and from underground, they kept working. Here's the term for where they still live, the old house, because that's the address they never left. Those buried parts are still standing in the house you grew up in, still following the one rule that kept you safe there. Don't become too much, too loud, too visible, too successful, too loved, and they'll turn on you. And to a child, being turned on doesn't feel like disapproval. It feels like dying. So every time something good shows up now, the parts living in the old house trip the alarm. And they move, quietly, before you even know it's happening. You put off the one task that would change everything. You start a fight with the one person who actually sees you. You get sick the week of the launch. You finally reach the level you've been chasing, and instead of joy, there's this hollow dread sitting in your chest. That dread is the signal. That's the machine saying, we're getting too far from home. Turn back. And you turn back. Every time. Not because you're weak. Because the part of you with its hands on the wheel still believes it's 20 years ago, and you're small, and your whole survival depends on staying that way. Now here's where this stops sounding like everything else you've heard. Most people will tell you that you wreck things because you're afraid. Afraid of failure, afraid of success, afraid of the unknown. That's the surface. That's what people say when they haven't looked closely. Because look at what you actually destroy. It is not everything. It is not random. It's specific. You don't end the casual thing. You end the one that was going somewhere. You don't sabotage the job you don't care about. You sabotage the one that was about to prove you're talented. You don't disappear from the project nobody's watching. You disappear from the one that just started to work. That's the surgical destruction from the start of this. And now you can see the pattern in the cut. It targets evidence. Specifically, any evidence that contradicts the story you've been telling yourself about who you are. If the story is, I'm unlovable, the knife finds the love that proves otherwise. If the story is, I'm not enough, the knife finds the success that proves otherwise. If the story is, I don't matter, it finds the exact moment you were starting to. The machine isn't trying to hurt you. It's trying to keep the story intact, because the story, however much it hurts, is familiar. And the mind will choose familiar pain over unfamiliar hope nearly every time. Jung called this the shadow's intelligence. And that word, intelligence, is the one to hold. The thing doing this to you isn't stupid, and it isn't chaos, and it isn't a flaw in your character. It's a system that was built to protect you, still running long after the danger walked out of the room. An old alarm, wired to a threat that's been gone for years, going off every time a door opens and something good steps through. And here's where I have to stop talking about the machine like it's a thing in a diagram, because you've been sitting with me for 12 minutes now, nodding along, watching this mechanism like it belongs to somebody else, like we've been examining a patient on a table. You're the patient, and you're the surgeon. The machine does this. I've said, that was you. You are the one who finds the crack in the good thing. You are the one who picks the fight, misses the deadline, goes quiet, disappears. Not a mechanism. Not your childhood. Not your parents. You, now, this week, with the hands you have today. And I want to be precise about the thing you've been calling by the wrong name. You've been calling it, I just wasn't feeling it. You've been calling it, it wasn't right anyway, and I got busy and something felt off. That's not intuition. That was never intuition. That's the alarm, and you've been obeying it and calling the obedience a choice. Here's the harder version. It's not that you can't stop destroying good things. It's that some part of you won't. Because stopping means believing something about yourself that you've spent your whole life making sure you'd never have to believe. So let me give you the one question that turns the alarm back into something you can see. The next time you feel it rising, the urge to pick the fight, miss the deadline, go cold, pull back. Don't ask, why am I doing this? That question goes nowhere. That's the machine handing you a puzzle to solve, so you'll keep your eyes on the puzzle and never on yourself. Ask this instead. What would I have to believe about myself if this actually worked? If this relationship lasted, I'd have to believe I'm someone who can be loved. If this work succeeded, I'd have to believe I'm capable. If people saw my work and valued it, I'd have to believe I have something worth seeing. And that belief, sitting on the other side of the question, that's the wound. That's the exact thing the whole machine was built to keep you from ever having to believe. Because believing you're lovable is dangerous when you learned early that love gets taken away. Believing you're capable is dangerous when being capable once got you resented. Believing you matter is dangerous when the last time you mattered, it made you a target. The machine is protecting you from a danger that is real, but old, fossilized, not in the room with you anymore. Jung wrote down the rule underneath all of it. He said, when an inner situation is not made conscious, it happens outside, as fate. The conflict you won't look at on the inside, you end up living out on the outside, and then you stand in the wreckage and call it bad luck. He was describing whole nations tearing themselves in half. But the rule runs just as exactly inside one person. The war you refuse to see in yourself doesn't disappear. It picks the targets. It ends the relationship. It misses the deadline. And then you call it fate. The question doesn't stop the machine. Not at first. What it does is make the machine visible, and what's invisible runs you. What you can finally see, you get to choose, not control, choose. So what changes when you stop being the demolition crew? You get your energy back. You don't know how much fuel you've been burning on this until it stops. Every fight, every sabotage chance, every momentum you killed that costs something enormous. You've been tired for years, and you thought it was the work. It was never the work. It was the war. When the war ends, you don't get superhuman energy. It's quieter than that. You're just not fighting yourself anymore. You can finally use what you have on what's in front of you, and you get to keep things. The relationship doesn't have to collapse at week 2. The work doesn't have to hit a ceiling you built. You don't have to keep starting over from zero. You get to accumulate, not just wins, a life. One you don't have to tear down every time it starts to look real. The part of you that destroys everything good was never your enemy. It's a part of you that's been trying to keep you safe with an old map, following old orders, guarding a version of you that doesn't exist anymore. It doesn't need to be killed. It needs to be seen. It needs you to look straight at it and say, I know why you're here. The war's over. You can stand down. And when it does, something shifts. Not like a movie. Quietly. The next time something good walks in, you might feel the alarm go off, and instead of obeying it, you just watch it. Let it ring. Let it pass. And then you let yourself have the thing. Not because you finally fixed yourself, because you finally saw yourself. And what you saw wasn't a monster or a broken person or someone who can't handle good things. It was someone who learned very early that good things were dangerous and who's been protecting themselves ever since. The protection worked then. It doesn't work now. You can put it down.